Hey, what's going on? This is your boy SYNTELL with the Intel, and we are privy to some new news regarding some release dates to some Marvel films. Before we get started, please make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon, give us those thumbs up. Now, according to comicbook.com, they were given some information regarding the studio's release dates of these new films. It's looking like 4 more Marvel Studio movies per year may be the new norm. Friday afternoon, Walt Disney Studios unveiled its updated theatrical release slate through 2024, and included on it are 4 different Marvel Studio dates staggered throughout the year. The first date comes on February 16th, 2024, while 2 summer blockbuster dates are reserved on both May 3rd and July 26th. The final 2024 date for Marvel Studios falls during the first part of November on November 8th. The Kevin Feige-led production house had only previously reserved dates through 2023. As of now, Marvel Studios currently has 7 dates saved on its release calendar between 2023 and 2024. The 4 mentioned dates and 2 in 2023, July 28th, 2023, October 6th, 2023, and November 3rd, 2023. At this point, there are 3 officially announced Marvel projects without release dates: Jon Watts' Fantastic Four reboot, the Mahershala Ali Blade, and Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool 3. Then, on top of all that, there have also been trade reports of Captain America 4 starring Anthony Mackie's Sam Wilson. As recently as August, Feige told comicbook.com's Phase Zero podcast the studio has a release window established for Deadpool 3, though he wouldn't elaborate when that window was. I did find something interesting that was not noted by comicbook.com, and that one of the 4 unreleased dates for an already established project is for an unnamed mutant film. Now that, to me, is what's interesting, because the very first thing that pops in my head is the X-Men. Now, I know you're probably wondering, now, how does that kind of connect? Now, this is all theory and lore, of course. With the Eternals popping out, we may get introduced to the possibility of the Eternals putting in the mutant genome into some of the people that they're watching over as they spend their time on Earth. In some comic book lore, there are theories that say Apocalypse received part of that mutant genome that he could have gotten from the Eternals. So, what I'm hoping is that the Eternals introduces this mutant genome in order to help facilitate mankind's need to keep from getting destroyed from deviants. Hopefully we'll get some kind of hat tip to the character that is going to play Apocalypse, and we can be off to the races now that we know that the mutant genome is out into the world. Now, Jon Watts' Fantastic Four reboot, we're dealing with some cosmic type entities, especially once we really get introduced to the Eternals. We're going to be pushed back into a larger picture of the Marvel world regarding Celestials, of course, the Eternals, maybe the possibility of Galactus. I have a theory regarding the thing that hits the planet that's been released once all the people come back from Thanos' snap. We are clued to the fact that when everybody came back from Thanos' snap, it created some type of cosmic event that triggered an alert to something. A beacon was shot off. I think the person that could be called from regarding the beacon is the Silver Surfer. And if you have the Silver Surfer being introduced, then that means you're gonna have Galactus being introduced. And you can't really have a full-blown Galactus movie and Silver Surfer introduction without the Fantastic Four. I think the Eternals movie is going to be one of the big keys that unlocks 2 big properties, and that is going to be unlocking mutants and, of course, unlocking the Fantastic Four if they do have to deal with the Silver Surfer, also Galactus on the side. There's one more hat tip that could kind of maybe favor an idea of why some of this is real, and a lot of that has to hinge with Sony's showcase with their video games. 2 big properties concerning the MCU. The first one is Spider-Man Part 2 again, and they're gonna reintroduce Peter Parker and Miles Morales. You can play as Miles Morales as well as Peter Parker. Now, that's important because in the No Way Home trailer, we got a chance to look at a couple of clues that may tip us to the fact that Miles Morales may be present. One of those clues is that you see a shot of Peter Parker running through what could be a homeless shelter, a facility that holds and feeds impoverished people. And as he's running through like this soup kitchen, there's a lot of clues that Soup Kitchen could be Feast. Now, Feast is a soup kitchen that Miles Morales works at, and is also a soup kitchen that Aunt May works at. So that could easily be an introduction. So what we're seeing is Sony creating a blueprint for pushing the video games in order to get interest in the characters that could or could not be in Spider-Man No Way Home. Now, a lot of times these studios kind of mimic one another. One person does one thing and another studio does the same thing, okay? Now, within the same showcase, Fox took out their property with the X-Men, and Wolverine is having their video game as well. This is important because just like Sony getting everybody prepped for Miles Morales and or Peter Parker via these video games, you will now be prepped and ready to see Wolverine, who could be a part of the X-Men story within the game, which could also help push the MCU forward regarding an unlisted title from a mutant property. Okay, so I know we kind of went all the way around. So that's a good reason as to why it's very possible that they may be ready to push X-Men out into the forefront. The Eternals could be the spark that puts the mutant genome into human beings so that human beings can be more capable of protecting themselves from Deviant. An example of this is that Apocalypse was a normal human being who may have had the mutant genome introduced to him, and in many circles he is known as the very first mutant. So the Eternals themselves could help spark the mutant cause. The Eternals themselves could also spark the Fantastic Four and Reed Richards, in which we are crossing our fingers and hoping to God that this is what it is, because a very big cosmic level event happens on Earth. It's kind of like the whole reason why we're getting the Eternals movie. They've been really quiet, and even through Thanos doing the snap, they didn't really pop up, and other kind of really big cosmic events, they kind of just chilled out. But for this particular cosmic event, they're waking up, and now it's kind of like all hands on deck, because something is being pinged, something is being summoned, and I believe the thing that's being summoned is going to be the Silver Surfer. If you're a fan of the Silver Surfer and a fan of the Fantastic Four, then you know that the Silver Surfer is a servant of Galactus. That is one of the bigger bads that you could ever have in the Marvel MCU. He's like a super omega level event bad guy. He's like the breaker of worlds, literally. He's like devouring planets. So the Silver Surfer is coming out to see what all the fuss is about, so that Galactus doesn't have to spend his time traversing the galaxy trying to find what is the best and the most likely place for him to get his meal on regarding Earths and Marses and Mercuries and other planets around. He sends the Silver Surfer to go and do this. So when the Silver Surfer shows up, he's going to deal with the Eternals, head back to Big Daddy in the back and talk to Galactus and say, listen, this planet may be prime. If you're gonna bring in Galactus and the Silver Surfer, then their main foes of fighting off that level of a bad guy is going to be the Fantastic Four. Now Deadpool and how he kind of connects to all of this when you're talking about multiverses of madness, maybe he gets reintroduced to Cable. There are versions of Deadpool where he has the capacity to teleport himself, and in teleporting, he may be teleporting himself through multiple dimensions as well. We don't know the scope of how far that teleportation goes. And since he is a fourth wall breaker, it would be fun to see him kind of come in and then add a bit of levity to all of the craziness and all the seriousness that the multiverse of madness crashing on itself can have. You know, he could be kind of like our narrator in a sense, in some weird comic way, and him having his new unveiling and new revealing with some of these new dates, he could be right on time, because things are about to get really heavy with this multiverse of madness. All right, now this is another one of those long shots regarding an important release date for a property that may be very relative, and that is Mahershala Ali's version of Blade. If we're using some of our previous theory regarding video games kind of like laying the foundation for properties that are set to jump off the screen, this could fall into that category as well, because Blade is going to be a member of a group known as the Midnight Suns in a video game that is scheduled to come out early spring of 2022. This could be interesting because it can kind of tie in some additional people alongside Blade. Wolverine, Ghost Rider as well. There's also a tie-in with Doctor Strange being a part of the Midnight Suns. Once again, if you're putting your ducks in a row so that you can get the maximum amount of exposure on these properties that you're releasing, is just compounding the effect of interest on some of these owned properties. Thank you so much for hanging out. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and click the bell icon to receive up to the minute updates. There's also a nifty little thumbs up button that you can hit as well. This is SYNTELL with the Intel, and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace out.